Okay, so we are live now. Yes. Okay. So we had some technical difficulties. Thank you. It looked like we were checking before. Okay, we had 10 viewers. So thank you for hanging in there with us, guys. We're only about an hour and a half late, but that's okay. We're going to go through with this. I've got Matt and Amanda and Ian, and we are ready to rock and roll. I do want to say a few things about the reason that we're doing this. We're really in the midst of social distancing. We've discovered that there's quite a few people who are struggling with this isolation, separation, boredom, etc. I just watched a YouTube video earlier today. The guy was making fun of the fact that he has no idea what day of the week it is or what time of the day it is, and I certainly can relate to that. So we want to help people just to have some fun and to meet some of the people in our gaming community about just kind of bring everything together. So Game Talk was created so that we can get to know each other a little bit better. We believe this will strengthen the local gaming community and give you something fun to watch. Oh, okay. Wait a minute. I'm getting hand signals from Bill.
It means keep talking.
Oh, keep talking. Okay. So um, we reached out to some of our local gamers, some of the regulars at the cafe, and we asked them a few questions. And so um, these three great folks are people I've known for a couple of years now. They're regulars at the cafe, and what we have prepped them with are some questions to kind of prime the pump. But we don't really know which direction the conversation will go. We've actually been sitting here chatting for about an hour and a half, and I was warning them, hey, don't spend all the good stories and all the fun times because we want our listeners to be able to catch a hold of all this great stuff that they're talking about. So, a couple other details that we've got going on. The we've got the game talk going on every Friday night. Tomorrow we've got a live stream playthrough of King Domino, and then on Sunday we've got our live DM chat. So we've got a couple of DM dungeon masters coming in, and we will be similar to this. We'll be asking them some basic questions about how they got into DMing and what they like about it, and then some of our regular. Every Wednesday we're going to be doing a live stream. Every Thursday we're going to be doing a live stream game play. And then for your Magic players out there, we've got a direct challenge on Arena on both the on Wednesday night, on Friday night, and on Saturday night. Oh, did we lose you guys? Okay. Are we good to start the questions? I'm looking to Bill.
Shortly. Oh, wait, it's on there.
Okay. I guess they're pulling in they're
Yes,
pulling in
we're
Ian
good.
and Matt and Amanda right now.
Yes.
So it looks like we're good to go. So the way we're going to run this thing is I've asked each of you to kind of give us a short intro of yourself, your name, a little bit about yourself, but more importantly, how you got into gaming, what brought you in, and then we'll go from there. So why don't we start with Ian first? Ian, introduce yourself, and then we'll go to Matt, and then we'll go to Amanda.
Okay, it's just really slow. I can't even hear that. Oh, it's because it's not through your phone. I can't hear it.
Hold on. Tell Ian to hold. Why isn't this?
Cool.
I think you can
Matt,
hear it.
how about you?
Just don't mess with that one because it's on there.
But I can't do the audio.
Huh? Yeah, I think it's because we read it through your phone.
I'm listening to it through there.
Oh,
Yeah. I don't have their audio coming through.
Oh, sad.
That was the same issue we had last night.
Why is this coming through?
Is it going through Zoom? I tried hitting mute and unmute.
So nobody's hearing this.
They hear you. They don't hear them.
Does it work now?
I don't know. I have to wait for this to catch up.
Great. So I'm getting feedback that not everybody can hear us. So I'm looking at Bill's doing some magic work here to see if maybe it's a Zoom feed problem, or we are still learning how to do this, obviously. So can you guys talk so we can so let me go to Ian. So Ian, what is compliance?
I'm sorry, Tom. What? You just dropped out on me. So, I guess I could jump to
You just unplugged me.
Yes, I did.
question 2, and I'll try to talk up a little bit. I don't want to blow people's ears out when the audio actually comes in. I guess the question is why do I game? Well, one, I like competition.
Yeah.
I think I like competitive stuff, and also the puzzles. I think every game's a puzzle.
Yeah, I was that's
Like,
why
there's
I
always
wanted
something to figure it out.
Because if we plug it back in,
Oh,
out of here,
well.
yeah.
Okay, I think the
Hi,
question is,
guys.
can they hear me now?
We're all learning. I mean, are you getting? Oh, we got there. Somebody says we got there. We're all learning how to do this. So,
All right. So
hey, it works now. Thank you, John.
can you guys hear
appreciate
me?
that. Can you, Tom? Can you hear me? Okay, are you guys?
I
good?
can hear you, but can you hear me?
You're very low right now.
Okay.
All right, hold on.
So we'll just move on.
Yeah, we'll just move on. We'll improve as we go. So the next question is, why do you game? What has gotten you inspired to game, Ian?
Okay, well, there you go, Tom. Why do I game? I like, as I said, I like competition. I like to have that, hey, I win because I want to win. But I also like cooperative games too. I mean, I like the competition and cooperative, but I think games, I like a lot of puzzles. So, and every game's a puzzle, figuring out, how to get either your piece where you need it to go or get the right cards, so it's a lot of fun for me. Just trying to figure out all the puzzles, and then at the end when I win, that's what's most
I've played
important.
against you, Ian. I know about you and your winning spirit. Which, by the way, we do need to get back together and play that Star Trek game sometime soon. Okay, so how about you, Matt and Amanda? What motivates you guys to game?
So I think kind of like Ian, I am somewhat competitive. I really suck at sports, so that's never going to happen. But I do like the competition of it. But for me, I enjoy hanging out with my friends and figuring out the strategy of things. I have a group, we call it the Rule Book Club. We get together, we read the rules of the game, watch videos on how to play, and then get together and kind of figure out, why would you do this or how would you do that? And just talk about the strategy. So maybe kind of like Ian said, it's like a puzzle, figuring out why things work, why things don't. So we do one round where we do it's super fun and we're just talking about the strategy, and then we'll play another round where we'll actually go against each other. So for me, it's about getting together with friends and figuring out that puzzle together.
That's kind of neat. I like the idea. You're almost kind of trying to reverse engineer whatever the game designer created to figure out how do we make this thing work, and then talk strategy with the people you're playing with. I really like that. That's kind of a neat idea. What made you think to do that?
Right, and because one of the things too is I think I end up teaching a lot of games. I enjoy teaching people how to play games, but when you do that, the golden rule is you're not supposed to win when you play the game, and so doing it this way, it lets me teach, but still we're all kind of learning from each other, and then you get to play the game afterwards.
Cool, that's really neat.
And Tom, I like a lot of, sometimes we do a lot of crosstalk across the table, even though we're in competition with each other. We're kind of like, hey, why don't you try that? Or why don't you try it? So it's not necessarily like competition at a, really cutthroat level. It's more of like, hey, why don't you, hey, that might work better than what that card or something like that. So I like that too, that interaction and that crosstalk.
Yeah. Yeah. So, this gets into the next question. There's a whole bunch of different genres of games out there. And I know some people really like certain types of games and some people hate certain types of games. But what do you think about worker placement? What good, bad? Do you love it? Do you hate it? So we'll start with you, Ian. What do you think about worker placement games?
I like worker placement games, and I think sometimes it can suffer because of the design. I think if the design's really good for your worker placement and how you're getting your workers or drafting your workers, and then it can really be a really fun game. I think if you play a worker placement game where it's kind of like, it's usually that they don't have a good mechanic to keep you in the game. And that's kind of where I think where worker placements fall down, but I do like them. I don't hate them. I really like to play them. And I know you said one worker placement game, but I actually have two that I just got right now that I really like. And so I'm going to pull one out, and this has been my favorite of a worker placement style game is Parks. So it's a really beautiful game, but it's also accessible from a worker placement standpoint. It's got a nice mechanic where you're just kind of moving along one track. So there's not a lot of, I have to move here, I have to move there. So it really makes for an easy kind of entry level worker placement sort of, but it is a really nice game and it's a lot of fun. So that's one. And the other one that I've been kind of hanging out with and playing is Everdell. I don't know if you've ever seen Everdell, which is another really, really pretty game. Just great artwork and a lot of fun. And it's got this really cool like tree that you set up that adds some levels to where you can place your workers and things like that. So it's kind of cool. But those are two that I'm really kind of playing right now.
I think the first time I saw Everdell was at Origins, and it's visually very appealing game.
Yes.
Right? It's not a game that I played before, but I just remember walking by the booth and just being attracted to it and watching them, put on the demo.
Yep.
It's definitely one of those games that's very eye-catching. How about you, Matt? Talk to me about worker placement game. Love it, hate it?
They're not favorite games, but I do enjoy a good worker placement game. The aspect that you're trying to figure out where to go, but there's a lot of, you have to predict what your other players are going to be aiming to do. And if you're trying to, kind of hate place or just disrupt their movements, that's an interesting aspect to it, where you're not existing in a little bubble. You really have a shared environment that you have to deal with when you're doing a good worker placement. So that's a part I like. And one of the ones I really like is Charterstone. And that was from, I think, Stonemaier Games. It was a legacy game.
Yeah.
So I'm a sucker for legacy games. So mixing those two together made a really stylish, fun game. And I'd say more, but I give it away to people who haven't played it before, and it's a legacy, so I don't want to do that. But enjoyable, I just really like the fact that you can have to predict. You have to get into the mind of your other people around your table to figure out what they're going to be doing and where they're going to be going as you're predicting what you should do and have your backup plan. So it's not you can have just one decision. You have to have 3 decisions made before you get ready to take your turn. So that way you can keep the flow going and keep moving.
See, but that's why I don't care for a lot of worker placement games, because you can have this whole set plan of what you're going to do, and by the time it gets around to the table, everything's changed or somebody's taken your move, and then you have to come up with a new plan on the fly. So I'm okay with them as long as they have like I played Abomination recently with my friend John and his son Charles, and it worked well because even if somebody kind of took what you needed, there was enough choices, and you can always take a second action there usually.
Okay, we've actually got a question from the listening audience. So go ahead, Bill.
Question is, what is everyone's opinion on role-playing games?
So did you guys hear that question? What is everybody's opinion on role-playing games?
I'm going to leave that to Matt and
Yeah.
Amanda, because I haven't played role-playing games in years.
Okay.
Although I like them, but I'm not. I'll let them.
Yeah, I know Matt and Amanda, you guys run a couple of different ones. So what is your opinion on role-playing games and versus just a regular board game?
I love role-playing games. I like, we play a lot of Pathfinder. We play Vampire the Masquerade. White Wolf just came out with their version 5, so I have a weekly Vampire game. I'm in 2 weekly Pathfinder games, one I'm running, and then we have another monthly Pathfinder game. So we do play a lot of them. I think that the only is the barrier of entry. I feel like it takes a lot more to get into somebody who's, maybe not as familiar with gaming or, hasn't played that kind of thing before. It's a lot to get into, not just dedication wise, but, money wise. The books aren't cheap. You have to have, dice, and you could probably go far with it, but, there is a barrier to entry, but once you get in there, it's good. It's fun.
Yeah. I would say, it really gives you a lot more versatility, but that's part of the barrier too. If you play a board game, you exist within a structured world. You have a rule book that tells you to do X, Y, or Z, and that's what you can do. Where a role-playing game does have still structure. Dungeons & Dragons, which we're all familiar with, or Pathfinder, gives you a very, here's the rules. But with a sitting someone there as a dungeon master, now you can open that up and do all kinds of crazy things. If Amanda shows up and says, well, I want to climb that tree, run up the tree, jump down, and lasso that goblin, and then string them up. It's like, well, okay, here's the rolls to make. We can work out a way to do that, and it gives you more flexibility. So that's a definite plus. Downside of role playing games though is they're much more table dependent. If I sit down to play a game like a Terraforming Mars, or if I play something simple like a 7 Wonders, the game's going to run as the game runs. Other than some possibly analysis paralysis, the game's still going to run as it should. But if you have a bad table of role players, that can make your game very unenjoyable.
I can't imagine analysis paralysis in the middle of a role-playing game. That would be very difficult.
It could happen with I'm thinking rules interpretation. The games don't always have very, very clear rules. I feel like board games, it's pretty clear. Move here, roll this. Whereas I can't even begin to tell you the number of arguments Matt and I have gotten in over.
People think they're arguments. They're discussions. We're discussing the rules.
Over sneak rules and
grapple. Oh my God.
I thought I thought the DM or the GM was always right when it comes to the rules.
When I'm the GM, yes, but there's a double standard that I firmly hold to on that.
Okay.
One thing, Tom, I want to note on that for role-playing games is, and maybe it's always been that way, but it feels like there's more accessibility to the world now with some of the one-night one-shots that you can do. Something like a Fiasco we've had a lot of fun with. What's the one you did, the white box one?
Icarus.
Or Kids on Bikes. And I know I've seen some of those played around the cafe before, but those ones, you don't need, they're not so rules heavy. You don't need all these little charts and things like that. You can go in and you're really just playing a character. It can be any type of thing that you want to do. We did one of them one night where we had Action 6 news team.
We're all news reporters.
And that was the game. And we spent 4 hours playing that game and had a great time.
Was that a Fiasco episode? Or?
Yeah. I think Amanda murdered me at one point, but that's not but I mean, for gamers out there, if they're hesitant, like Amanda said, there can be that learning curve. Try one of the rules light ones first and go in and just don't be afraid to have fun. Do something different. Talk in a silly voice. Do something different.
Yeah, I think that's one of the main enjoyable features of a role-playing game is that you can actually role play. Take on a different voice, different character, and a different persona. I think that's one of the best things. We have another question from the audience here. So what is it, Bill?
What are your favorite deck building games?
Aha! So we're jumping beyond the worker placement games. Does anybody have a huge passion for deck building games?
I mean, I really enjoy them, but Ian, I was hogging the last one.
Yeah,
So
let's
you
go.
go.
Ian, do you have a favorite deck building game?
I mean, obviously, I'm gonna jump to Dominion because I just like that one a lot, and it's just fun, and it's a good entry level deck building, but also Legendary.
Yeah,
That's my favorite.
Yeah,
Hands
like
down, my
Marvel
favorite.
Legendary is absolutely fun.
Wait. Are we talking any Legendary?
No,
Because
Marvel Legendary.
Marvel Legendary.
Marvel Legendary.
Yeah. Because some of the legendaries are a little bit shaky, and I give them a pass on anything that's Marvel. Because if it's Marvel, it's like, okay.
Yeah, it's fun.
As long as we all agree Cyclops should never be put in the deck. Just don't put Cyclops in.
Okay.
I think that's the worst part about that's the worst and the best part about Marvel Legendary is figuring out the villain, the scheme, and all that. I absolutely love that part of the game. Whenever we play it at home, Laura or whoever we're playing with says, "Tom, you go set it up," because they know how much I enjoy setting it up.
Cyclops is awesome.
No.
No,
Disagree 100% on. So the one thing I'll say for deck builders though is I really do enjoy them, and anyone give me a chance to play deck builder, I'm on board. The only downside to them, and this is where I think technology has helped somewhat, is the setup teardown. Like you said, Tom, putting them together is like, and then when you're all done and you're like, okay, well, I got to break all my decks up and put them all in different piles and get all that going. That is annoying. So I do look to the future when they get like some of the tables they're discussing and some of that will simplify that. They did release a Legendary app, but it was unthemed. They tried to make their own world, and it was kind of like, and then they tried to sell me packs and all these other things where, I'll pass.
Right, so we're gonna move on now and get some of your top games of all time. So we'll start with Amanda. What are your top 3 games, and just a brief description about the game and why it ranks. We'll start with number 3, and then we'll have everybody give their number 3, and then we'll have everybody give their number 2, and then everybody give their number 1. So Amanda, you're up first. What's your number 3 top 3 games?
So number 3 is Sagrada. It's a dice placement game where you're using very pretty colored dice to build a stained glass window. I like it because it's very easy to pull out, to play with people and explain it quickly. And everybody I've ever played seems to enjoy it. You can still, sit around and have a conversation with people while you're playing. And it's not super competitive and it's not cooperative. But you're playing kind of against yourself, just trying to do the best you can. So that's my number 3, Sagrada.
All right. How about you, Ian? What's your number 3?
Well, actually, we just got that game and I love it. I'm going to say I love that game. It's a lot of fun. It's really easy to get into, and it's a really, really good game. My number 3, and Tom, I hate this question.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just going to be this question sucks
It's-
because I mean, there's just so many that I really like. And I know, like we played Star Trek Frontiers and I really like that game. I like the way that it plays out and the map builds into this giant V shape and then random things kind of happen on the map and you don't know what's going to happen until you bring up the next piece of the map. So, I mean, it's got a little bit of a deck building mechanic to it because you're building your crew and stuff. So it really is a really fun game, but it's just,
I
it
really
takes a
liked
little
it.
bit.
I really felt like I was exploring.
Yeah, that's what I like about it.
Yeah.
So that's my number 3.
Have you guys tried Star Trek Ascendancy yet?
No, I have not. I have not tried that one.
If you like the exploration, it does give you that really great feel for exploration. I would say maybe be careful of playing with the Borg expansion. The Borg are really mean. Not surprising.
Okay.
Okay, Matt, what's your number 3?
We already covered my third. My third on my list, and it'll always be my third, is Marvel Legendary.
Okay.
With the caveat, you remove Cyclops from the deck. Take him out, throw him in the trash where he belongs, and put Cyclops there.
I think I'm going to have to play that game with you with Cyclops in it just to see and experience what's going on here because there's obviously some
Just
deep
has an
seated
unnatural
hatred.
nature. Yeah, it's just unnatural.
The gameplay is fine, just the character. Because I'm playing this for theme. I just dislike Cyclops. He's up there with Deanna Troy as characters I hate.
Okay, got it. All right,
Just-
Amanda, on to you for your number 2 game.
Well, I'm actually going to save my number 2 because Matt and I did discuss the questions early, and his number 1 is my number 2.
Okay, so we'll move on to Ian. Ian, what's your number 2?
I have to say, it's Arcadia Quest. It's a light dungeon crawl, and it is a lot of fun. And I like the way the mechanics work with the battles and stuff, and how you can build your hero character. You know, you build your little set around your character and your cards and stuff. And it's got some really nice looking miniatures, and I just really like it.
Matt, so your number 2.
I gotta say, we're all suckers for miniatures, so don't feel bad for that. If it's a game's got good minis, it's like I'll forgive some sins. Probably my number 2 would be Reckoners, which is sitting right there. It's one of the few co-op games I really like because it doesn't really have a quarterbacking aspect to it. Everyone's kind of taking their own turns and interacting in their own way while they're playing. It's a basic dice roller Yahtzee mechanic where you are basic humans trying to defeat superheroes who've turned evil. So again, I'm leaning into the theme. If you've got capes and cows, you've most likely got a fan in me. But it's a game that takes about 2 hours, and I don't think we've had a bad session of it yet. Every time we've played it, it's been good. It has varying difficulty levels, so you start out on kind of the easy and you go through the harder levels, and it gets more and more entertaining. And then I got the Kickstarter edition of that one, which I spent way too much money on it, but it was worth it because it came with metal pieces for me. And metal pieces is like, oh yeah, they got weight, I can feel them, and they put dents in the table, so they're exciting.
Well, the main villain in that is made of metal.
Yeah, it's made of metal.
It's kind of
so
cool.
You're fighting Steelheart. So if you've read some of the Brandon Sanderson novels, it's in that, not in that universe, but written by him. It's 3 novels and a novella, I think. But it's really good. It's entertaining. If you're looking for a fun co-op, I would recommend The Reckoners.
Cool. Hey, we're going to break the order up a little bit. And since Amanda's number 2 is your number 1, Matt, why don't you give us your number 1, and then we'll hear what Amanda's number 1 is.
Yeah. My number 1 and Amanda's number 2 is Terraforming Mars. So that is a game that probably most of my friends are annoyed with. Someone like, hey, what do you want to play? I'm like, hey, how about Terraforming Mars for the 57th time? I think Dennis and Victor have heard me say that way too many times at this point for my Tuesday night group. But it's just an enjoyable game. I mean, I like the engine building. I like the expansions. Turmoil, the latest one, is a little bit less enjoyable. But overall, the theme, again, sucks me in. I get to terraform a planet. I'm building an engine mostly independent of other players in this case. So I can kind of go and do my own thing. I can plan, I can strategize without getting too messed up by other people. and just have a good time in 3 or 4 hours. So Terraforming Mars for me is definitely my top one. That if anyone's playing it, I'm always up for it. And around the cafe, we've seen some amazingly beautiful, pimped out games that people have done that are great for Terraforming
Yeah,
Mars.
I'd say that of all the pimped out games that have come into the cafe, I think Terraforming Mars is probably ranks up there at the top in terms of the number of people that have pimped out their version of the game. It
But
definitely seems to be getting a lot of play all over the place.
let's be honest, you have to, because the game that comes in the basic box is kind of crap. I mean, the art, I love the game. It's my number one game, but the art is bad, and the things they give you to play on the little player sheets, you can't play it on the basic player sheet. You need some sort of grid to play on, because if someone bumps the table,
Yes.
all the little cubes just go bloop, and it's like, oh, well,
Good
let's just
game.
restart now, because I got no clue how much metal I had or how
Right.
much steel or titanium.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah. So Amanda, we'll go to you. What's your number one?
And why isn't Terraforming Mars your number one? That's really the question.
Because I never win at Terraforming Mars. I like playing because it's one of those games where it's not super competitive, but it's not a cooperative. You're still playing your own game. But my number one is Potion Explosion.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
still stuck on that one.
I kind of agree with that one. That's a good game.
Yeah. If you've ever played Candy Crush, where you're trying to match up like colors, it's that, except it's a little more complicated because you're planning ahead, trying to build these different formulas that'll then give you special powers, and you're trying to get the most points at the end. Definitely my favorite game. Easy to explain. Everybody loves it. I like to play with people of all ages, except a certain kid who beats me.
Yeah.
So he shall remain
A
nameless.
9-year-old, I think, lives on the West Shore.
But but it's a fun game, and everybody can play it. And it's got expansions, so
Should
it's
they
still
play
good.
with expansions or no?
Yeah, play the base game a few times to get good at it. Like every good expansion, it adds to the game, but it's not like you need it. But definitely once you get past the base game, build onto it. So that's my number one, Potion
Cool.
Explosion.
All right, and finally, Ian, what's your number one?
I'm going to go back now. I'm going to say to Matt and Amanda, because we discussed this earlier, I am not selling this game. But I'm going to go back. So I don't get any commissions or anything if you go out and buy one. But I do. Right now, my number one is Parks, just because it's so much fun to play and it's so nice to look at. It's.
Your mic.
I know when he laid out on the table, it's just like, man, I just want to play this all the time, just because it's that good looking and it's just fun to play. So I can't, and by the way, engine building games I suck at, but I like playing them. Like I can't, like Gizmos gets me every single time. Like I can't seem to get a good engine build with Gizmos ever.
So the same people who did Potion Explosion. So.
Yeah.
Similar.
It's always surprising, though. You can have your favorite games and still lose at them on a regular basis.
Oh yeah. That's what's
I think
fun.
that's a sign of a good game when, like, there's games that I can lose repeatedly, and I'm still like, no, let's play that. Like I'm good to go. I know I'm going to lose, but let's sit down at the table and do this because it is going to be a good time. And
Yeah. It's
Potion Explosion. I'm never going to beat her, but I'll still play it because it's enjoyable. I have a good time playing.
All right, so we have a question from the audience that's really kind of putting me on the spot here. So somebody want to know what my top 3 games are,
Oh, let's hear it.
and I didn't have as much time to think about it as you guys did. So I will go really quickly through my list. Not very well thought out, but my number 3 game is Coup. Coup is I call it a bluffing game. You have two cards showing your influence in a court, and you take actions each turn, and you can either bluff or do the actions of the people that you have cards for. So the thing I like about it is it plays really quick. You can play with a lot of people. And every time you play it, every time I've played it, it's been an absolute joy to it's just pure fun. There's not a whole lot of strategy other than, is he lying this time or not? I cannot play that game with my wife though because she knows every single time when I'm bluffing. Um, my number two game, a worker placement game called Raiders of the North Sea, came out last year, June of last year. The components really high quality, really simple game mechanic. Basically, you're a Viking lord. You raise a crew and you go raiding, and you do all that through the worker placement system that's there. It's got a little deck building, which are your crew members that have different abilities, and you can play them either from your hand for their actions or you can add them to your crew. One of my favorite worker placement games. And then my top game of all times is Marvel Legendary, for all the reasons that we just talked about before in terms of deck building games and the theme and just I just really enjoy setting it up. Every time I play it, it's a new scheme, a new villain, a new set of heroes. So those are my top three games in a nutshell.
I just say Raiders of the North is actually a great worker placement game. I really like that one. It's a lot of fun.
Hey, Tom, what's the game that leaves the shelf at the cafe the most often?
That's a good question. It for probably the majority of the 4.5 years that we've been open, I would say Betrayal at House on the Hill probably gets more play time than any other game. It was a close second. Last year was Clank. When Clank first came out, I would say Clank was getting way more play time than Betrayal at House on the Hill. Now I think that everybody's kind of got their Clank on. Betrayal is still hitting the table on a regular basis. The copy we have in our library is I think the fourth copy of the game because we basically wear out a copy a year.
Have they made the sliders any better on that one?
What was that?
Have they made the sliders for the characters any better?
That's an interesting question. So the first edition of the game that we had in the shelf, the components were super high quality. The last three versions of the editions or versions of the game that we put on the shelf, there's been all kinds of problems with the sliders. So I don't know. I don't know if it's a component issue. Oh, Julia's raising her hand. She's got something to say.
Yeah. So they do sell separately an upgrade kit for Betrayal and House on the Hill, where essentially instead of having those horrible little sliders, they have dials that make your life so much easier. So they do have upgrades for that, but they are sold separately because, capitalism.
So, hey, I want to ask a question to our group right here then on that point. What do we think about those kind of like add-ons for games and how much does it influence you for if a game has poor components for evaluating it? If you get a game that has poor art and poor components but excellent gameplay, Ian, are you still going to play it or is it going to sit in the pile after you play it once?
I think it's going to sit on it's going to sit on the pile. I really do, at least for me. I think if you've got it could have great gameplay and you're playing it and you think, boy, this is a lot of fun. But if it's not fun to look at and it doesn't keep your interest, then you're going to lose like the game. If the gameplay sometimes cannot be enough for me. I really like games that have that deep, kind of like feel and they really feel like really good. And they have like great artwork and stuff. Cause I think that just keeps you interested, especially when it's not your turn, because if somebody flips a card and it's a good looking card, you're like, oh man, that card is really cool. But if you get if you get a game where it's like things are just kind of like bland, and I mean, honestly, I will put 5-Minute Marvel and 5-Minute Dungeon are fun games, but they kind of sit because the cards suck. I mean, it just looking at the game kind of just sucks when you're just sometimes it's hard to like the way the game's built with the symbols and everything, and you're trying to play really fast and you're trying to talk to everybody, it kind of just goes by the wayside where, okay, we've had our fun with this, but it's just not going to keep my interest.
Mm-hmm.
So those are two examples.
So that's a tough question for me because I tend to I was trying to do some self-reflecting on that question because I haven't personally spent a lot of money on pimping out any games, but I can think of several games that I really enjoyed, but I didn't like the components, and I have sought out, pieces and parts from other games that I wasn't playing and added them to the game because I really wanted that, I guess, an increased experience. I literally just bought a war game, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was a really good mechanic, a really good deck building game.
Undaunted.
Undaunted, thank you. And I played it like once or twice, and I had to go out and get some little miniature figures and put them on the table because it just made the experience so much more pleasurable for me. So, but what do you think, Matt?
Any game can be improved by metal coins. I just have those that I can just have in my hand. And
Yeah, sure.
You have to have metal coins in it. Just have them. I can pick them up and play with them, and I'm happy. And that makes me pretty content. But at the same time, I can play a game if it has good gameplay. I mean, my number one game is Terraforming Mars. And again, we all agree that game looks like poop.
I don't think it looks that bad.
Oh, it's bad.
The card art is
It's
weird,
bad.
but other than that, the components aren't that bad.
The board, you have it's not great, and the cards are thin, the box is thin. It's just not. It was done cheaply, and if it wasn't that good of a game, but I'll point out, I just played QE recently, and someone introduced to me at a board game night, and component wise, it's a dry erase board you're basically writing on, and that's the whole game, and it was an excellent game. The art is just flags and symbols. It's really simple, but great game. If you get a chance to play QE too, give it a go. It's really fun. It'll be like a great 20 minutes of your life.
Cool.
What Quacks of Quedlinburg is a disorganized mess. I mean, I don't know if you've played that one, but honestly, with all the little pieces and the books and everything, that I went out, as soon as I got a 3D printer, I 3D printed little boxes and everything to put the components in so that it's organized. It just makes the gameplay so much better. I mean, when you've got this mess of stuff everywhere, it really kind of makes it hard to enjoy the game because you're like, oh, okay, well, which piece goes where? And so I think sometimes adding on or trying to find things that kind of fill that need will make a game better to start with. I could see that.
I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why Raiders of the North Sea hits me on so many cylinders because the components, the artwork, the gameplay, it was just so well done. Right out of the box, it just immediately jumped way up there in my favorite games. So okay, so we're
Really pretty games. Try out Weird Giraffe.
what was
They
that? Try out
Oh,
what?
that sounds interesting. Weird Giraffe. Okay.
That's the
That's
company.
the company. They've done
Okay.
They've done Stellar Leap, Fire in the Library, Dreams of Tomorrow, I think it is. But all their games are very pretty, and they have fun meeples.
I cannot imagine what Fire in the Library is like, but I gotta look that one up. Just the
It's-
name alone.
Save the Books game. So
So we're gonna move on because while I've been entertained by you for the last 2.5 hours. I know other people got things to do, although maybe not. I don't know, but
Nowhere to go.
we don't have to
we
be.
don't have anywhere to
none of us
go.
have anywhere really to go. So moving on to the next question, what are you most looking forward to in 2020 in terms of what games you think you might want to buy or own or just try? This could be a Kickstarter that you're tracking or some review that you've read. Just tell me the name of the game and what's attracting you to it. And we'll start with Amanda.
All right. Well, I'm pulling up my Kickstarter now. So recently, I mentioned before, White Wolf just re-released Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition role-playing game. And with that, they've also just started giving away licenses. I don't know. It must be like candy because there's been so many White Wolf licensed games that have come out on Kickstarter in the last, 8 months or so. I currently have, I think, 3 of them that I've kickstarted. One is a legacy game called Vampire Heritage. Then there's Blood Feud, which is a mega game, which is like a game that you can play with 30 people in a room. And then there's a card game coming out called Vendetta. So, hopefully these will be coming out in 2020. I don't know what stuff going on, might be 2021, but that's what I'm most looking forward to.
Very good. Very good. I sense a vampire theme in your life here.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you really like something, and as it gets licensed out, you just feel the need to get it because you don't want to be like left out.
Right. Yeah. What about you, Ian? What are you looking forward to?
Actually, I purchased a copy of the second edition of Atlantis Rising, and I haven't unwrapped it yet, and I'm really, really looking forward to playing that. Just because it just seems like a really good game. From what I've read on Board Game Geek and a lot of other places, it just seems like the second edition is a really good game. They've done a lot of improvement there. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. And that is a worker placement game. So.
All right, Matt, how about you? What are you looking forward to?
So I was fortunate enough to play at Save Against Fear in October. They have an Unpub alley. So unpublished games come there and they present their games. And you have a chance to sit down and play through them and talk to the creators and give feedback. And I know that's something me and Amanda generally really enjoy, when we can try and break a game or find out, what gameplay's in there and hear from the creators how they're doing it. And they were featuring one called Crimes in History, H.H. Holmes' Murder Castle. And if you enjoy Betrayal, which it sounds like a lot of people thought the Game Table Cafe do, this is from my point of view, an improved, much better version of Betrayal. So it's a tile-laying game where you're going around investigating. Now, you don't end up with a betrayer, but you do have H.H. Holmes running around trying to murder people, and you play cards to kind of push him towards different people to cause that while you're gathering the research. So the game, the art, Ian, you'd like it. It's very well done. The cards are very descriptive. They have little history bits they've placed within there because all the room tiles that they built are actually ones that were in his actual home. So they got a hold of the blueprints and everything from apparently...
Oh, that just sounds cool.
Oh, yeah. Apparently he had a gas chamber, and now there's a gas chamber in it.
Cool.
And he had like a murder couch. There's now a murder couch. So lots of really like those little tidbits that have tie back to historical accuracy that make the game really interesting and fun. And then it did well enough on Kickstarter, because it's a Kickstarter game. It's the company's first game they're ever releasing, that they made the components even better. So that's something I'm really excited about. When it comes out, we'll see, because it was supposed to come out in July, but that's been pushed back a couple times now already.
Okay, cool. Yeah, those are some interesting games. I remember seeing that game at Save Against Fear. It looked really interesting. Okay, so we got a couple more questions from the audience. When you are in a situation where you need to introduce a game or introduce games or gaming to new people, what is your go-to game? What game do you like to teach people the most? And we'll start with you, Ian. When you need to teach a game, what's your go-to game?
Wow, that's you know what? I'm gonna go kind of a little bit weird here, I guess. And I said, what I really get, if we're getting into like where we're getting a bunch of people and we're just kind of introducing it to these things that can be fun, I really like to pull out Sparkle Kitty. I think that's absolutely it's people really seem to, it's so simple and people love it, and you put a few drinks in people and they just start like cracking up at whatever you say. And I just think it's a great game to kind of get people into that interaction and the social interaction of gaming.
Yeah, that's not weird, because that is one of my go-to games, depending on who I'm trying to help here in the cafe. That is definitely at the top of my list of, here, let me show you something maybe you haven't played before. And it always goes over well. How about you, Matt? What's your go-to teaching game?
So it depends, again, on the audience I'm trying to teach. And I usually break it down between two different ways. I'll either go to a dexterity game, because that physical element helps some people get over the fact that it's not Clue or Monopoly. Some's a balancing game with wood pieces, and you build a ship and you have to hang them on there. So I'll use that one. It's an all ages type of game. If I'm trying to introduce them into more of a more of modern board games, I would go to Chrononauts from, I think that's Looney Labs. Is it Looney Labs? Chrononauts, either way. But it's a time traveling game where you're trying to rewrite history. And what makes it fun, the element we introduce more often is a storytelling piece. So one of the key pieces in the game is World War II, because you're going from Titanic right around that period up through 2000 in that range of game. And, how you have to either kill Hitler or save Hitler. And you get people telling stories and you get them relating. How do I sink Lusitania? How do I save the Lusitania? How do I do X, Y, or Z? And you get people talking. And it ends up being a really good beer and peanuts kind of game with modern board game mechanics. So it gets people over that hump of it's not a roll and move. It's something different. It's something new. Oh, I don't need dice. Oh, it has new rules. And you're learning history. So great. And so it's a good time.
Very good. How about you, Amanda? What's your go-to game?
I think a good one is Just One. It's a party game. Anybody can play it. It's a good way to warm up the crowd, get people playing. And then also, I've just been playing a lot of roll and write games that are really simple to teach. Cartographers, Welcome
I
to.
love Cartographer.
Cartographers is
Super
very
fun.
good. I guess that just came out at Origin,
Right.
right? Or PAX or
So
something.
it came out of PAX, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's even available yet otherwise, but Cartographers is a great one. Just One we played recently. I'm looking behind me. Harvest Dice, Railroad Ink, Patchwork Doodle. Just these really simple, roll stuff down, write things, and then finish in 20 minutes so that people, get interested and keep them moving through
So
games.
I have a really good question for you, Amanda.
Okay.
What cheesy game is your guilty pleasure?
Cheesy game.
Mm.
I like describe what do you mean by cheesy?
I mean, it's going to be Murder in Mystery House.
Yeah, I mean something that is, like maybe I guess like Uno would be a cheesy game. It's a game that everybody knows about, everybody plays, but it's not, it's not in the board
Right.
gaming aficionado group.
Right.
I would never get caught playing that game, but I really
Right.
like that game.
So my favorite games are from the 1990s VHS tape games.
Oh wow!
Oh, nice. Very nice.
Nightmare.
The Star Trek one's not bad.
And there's a Star Trek one. I actually have like 4 copies of it. I still have a VHS player.
Oh, that's just awesome.
That,
that is definitely a cheesy
Oh, yeah.
game.
it's still in the
Oh,
shrink
wow.
wrap, guys. That's definitely VHS. I actually played the ones with a bunch of friends, and they were making fun of it, and I was getting so mad because it was a game that I loved as a child, and it hasn't quite held up. But I was getting mad because they were making fun of it.
It was
But-
bad. It was so
It was
bad.
great.
It was ridiculous.
Yes.
So Matt, now you're on the spot, Matt.
You actually called out mine. My cheesy game of choice is Uno, but you have to get the pool version and be in the pool with a drink. It's the best Uno there is. And you can play it for hours and not care. And either that or Rock'em Sock'em Robots, but no one will play it. I think it's a broken game that's not really a game.
Yeah, the Uno we played on vacation when you're at these resorts and they have like pools and stuff like that. We'll randomly lose cards and people come up and be like, "I think this is yours. I saw you playing it." So many comments.
I
on
will
that.
say for vacations though, for the whole audience out there, get the apps because we've had so much fun on vacation on flights and just sitting down. If you're hanging around a beach or something like that, get an app you can pass back and forth through the ages. Great app-based game. Crazy, your Cat Lady is one of my
Cat Lady was one.
Cat Lady's really good ones. Some of those apps make really good when you're traveling because unfortunately carrying board games in luggage is not the easiest thing to do.
What's an Uno pool version?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the Uno pool version. I'm assuming it must be coated in plastic or something.
It's just their plastic cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you pay $6 at Target and you don't care if they float away, so it's fine. I think we're on our 3rd version. So that's my cheesy game of choice.
Got it. How about you, Ian?
I don't know if it's a cheesy game, but it's a game that nobody really wants to play with me, and that's Monopoly. I know it's like the worst hated game ever. Like everybody
It is. I
hates
hate that
Monopoly,
game.
but but when you play it by the rules and you don't play any house rules, it actually is a pretty quick, fun game.
Okay,
And
But the fact that so many people have had to make house rules.
I know. I dump the house rules and I like to play with the regular rules, where you auction and stuff. And nobody wants to do that. I'm like,
I think
look,
I have
if I could get a property for $1 because you don't want to bid on it, I'm taking it.
But you're allowed to trade, right? Because
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
this came up, if I was talking to Amanda and I said, you have to give me $500 for this property or I'll give it to Ian for $1, that's a fair move, right?
Yeah. Oh,
See?
yeah.
See, I'm not breaking the rules. That's fair.
I will not play Monopoly with this one.
there's kind of a standing order here in the cafe, because every time somebody grabs the Monopoly game from right there, I cringe, and I think most of my
It is.
employees
I mean,
know
it is
to
cringeworthy.
immediately
Like,
run
if you-
over and try and steer them away from it.
don't play that.
So what's the replacement for Monopoly? If you want a buying game of area, like I would turn to something like Chinatown or New York
1901.
1901. What would you turn someone to Monopoly? If they're picking up Monopoly, what would you point them to?
That's a really good question. I guess because they're picking Monopoly. I usually the people that are picking Monopoly are going to something that's familiar. That's why they're grabbing it. Very very rarely is it something that they just, oh no, I really want to play this game. It's just that
Except Ian. Ian
Well,
is
except for
Well,
Ian.
look, I mean, there's a little bit of history here. We had, when I was back in high school, we set up what we call Old City, Nude City, where you take the goes and you overlap them so the board makes a figure 8.
uh-oh.
And so you have the old city, which everything's the old prices, and then you have the new city where you times everything by 10.
What?
So when you pass go, you get $2,000. When like every property is like times 10. So when we played Old City, New City, we would play for hours because it would just take forever to kick people out of the game. But it was fun because you're like, you're everybody that I played with was like trying to just trounce each other in the new city.
That's the problem. Any game that has player elimination, I have issues with. Like you need a clear-cut win condition that's not player elimination.
I get it.
Yeah, I guess that's my. I mean, it's a game that people grab because they're familiar with it, and usually, to me, it's an indicator that we need to engage that customer. Not that there's anything wrong with the game.
There is. You can admit it. There's something wrong with Monopoly.
But
There's lots of things
so
wrong with
much-
Monopoly. We can all agree on that.
There's so many games that are better than Monopoly.
Yeah.
And so that's my, it's almost like whatever game I can think of is what I'm going to grab and try and
Except
teach.
Star Trek VHS.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't have that one in the library, but maybe if Amanda would donate it.
I have one. I could donate. You just need a VHS player.
Get a VCR in the cable cafe.
Mhm.
So
I think
just
somebody said what?
somebody,
Go ahead, Tom.
Somebody asked about cartographers. So actually, cartographers is not out other than PAX Unplugged, but you can. It's supposed to come out on April 14th. For worldwide distribution. Although all of my distributors aren't distributing anything at this point in time, so there may be a delay in that.
For
So-
photographers, I really want to get a game where we get like it goes up to 100 people. I'd love to have 50 people
Oh
playing.
wow!
this.
Well, and I think, Tom, we were talking about this playing it virtually. As long as one person has a copy of the game, people can print out the page. Aside from the monsters, you wouldn't be able to do. You'd have to kind of take them out of the game. I think you could play online. So I'd be willing to put together a game, for us to play online. See how many people we can get.
Yeah.
Sans monsters.
Very cool. Yeah, we'll definitely put that in the hopper. So,
Yeah.
but that leads us to the next question, and that is, how are you guys getting your gaming on despite social distancing? What are you doing? What innovative ideas do you have to share with everybody else on how they can connect, even though they can't get together face to face? So, I'm going to go to Ian for this question first.
I've been jumping on Steam, and we're using Tabletop Simulator and some other games on Steam for stuff. Also, just kind of just kind of hanging out here with Tom when he does something, kind of either watching or I think or playing something when they do the games on here. Since it's basically my wife and I, we've really been digging into 2-player games. Just trying to figure that out too. Just kind of just hang out. So, but virtually it's more Steam and Discord.
Okay.
And
cool. How about you, Matt? What are you trying to do to be able to
Oh.
game?
We do everything together. So at least for those kind of things. And I'm fortunate that I have a wife that's very technologically enabled. So we've been playing our Monday night Dungeon Pathfinder game has went to Fantasy Grounds, and we've been playing through there. So that's 2 sessions under our belt, and we're going along pretty well there. And then you had a pretty good idea for playing Welcome to. We did that as well as a roll and write.
Yeah, we just and we did it for Jackbox.
Oh yeah, that was a good one too.
Where we have a Zoom account, and so we stream it and just get a bunch of friends to join, and we all share cameras and show everything that way. So doing that stuff virtually.
Yeah, Jackbox worked very well because it's built for digital already. So people have their phones and you just play along. We did a couple trivia games, which for the board game community is always frowned upon for trivia, but it was a good time. We did some other ones there, and then we did Welcome to, that we set it up where you could see the cards from a webcam and then be able to play through, because that's another one you could play up to 100 people. So I think we only had 12, 15, 12,
Yeah, and then people had like the PDFs on their computer or the printed out, or in Victor's case, he didn't have a printer or a computer that could run it, so he just drew it on a piece of paper. But wonderful artwork.
It was
framed somewhere.
It should be. Victor, if you're listening, make sure you frame that and keep it forever. So.
But it was, and what's interesting too is like I have a friend Kim who just moved to Florida. She used to be part of my rule book club, and we haven't been able to play with her. Well, she was able to join in, so we're able to play with people who don't normally get to come out. That we haven't seen for a while. So it's kind of neat.
Yeah, downside is this disrupted a lot of our normal, like Manda was saying, we have 3 games we play on a regular basis, and Tuesday nights we go to the cafe almost every Tuesday to play. And those have all been kind of put on hiatus right now. The upside, I think, is going to come out of this is we're being forced to try new things. So we're doing hodgepodge of technology. We're putting different things together. I see tons of people using Tabletop Simulator. It's not what I enjoy about board gaming, but I think we're going to see a lot more options after this where people are more open to doing things differently. I still enjoy going to the cafe and seeing people. I still enjoy going to a convention and meeting new people and building my network of gamers, but now this is going to result in us having brand new options that we didn't consider before, or maybe we kind of poo-pooed because we're like, it's not the thing. But we don't got a choice now, so let's try it out.
Yeah, I think when we got, I guess it's been 2 weeks now. Friday 2 weeks ago, I got all the staff here together and say, okay, what can we do to engage our community? And so, we've just kind of had the if we build it, they'll come mentality, and so we're trying all kinds of different things. We've got the Discord channel up, and I would say about 80% of our role-playing games have all moved to the Discord channel. Some of them, not everybody was able to move, and some of them, their whole life is kind of in disarray, so they're not able to play at all. But we've got probably about 80% of our games and our gamers have moved from playing Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder here in the cafe to doing it on Discord. And some of them are just doing pure theater of the mind in Discord. And some of them are using Discord for chat, for voice chat, and Roll20 for for virtual tabletop. We've been trying to get. We were hosting 3 meetups: a Wednesday night meetup at 7:30, a Friday night meetup at 8:30, and a Saturday meetup also at 7:30 at 2 o'clock. For people to basically log on to Discord and say, hey, anybody want to play, Scythe on Tabletop Simulator or whatever. And there's been a lot of people that have never done Tabletop Simulator, and there's been some great people in the community that have helped say, hey, let me show you how to do it. I'll play a game with you. And just the patience and the willingness to include people is just a little bit overwhelming how cool it is to watch all this develop. And then we're doing, like Ian said, we're doing come play with us nights or days so we did Splendor last night. We did King of Tokyo a few days before.
We had an exploding.
Yeah, we had an exploding penguin that died miserably in the middle of Tokyo. So, but we're trying to draw people in to play with us here in the cafe, even though they're just coming in through Zoom or whatever. And people have been really sending me these really nice Facebook messages, or text messages about how meaningful it is to them, because a lot of people are by themselves. They live alone, or they live with people who are not into gaming, and they don't have anybody to talk with about their favorite hobby. So it's been meaningful to a lot of people. We're just at the infancy of it, but we're open to any suggestions you have to be able to try and make this thing work for everybody. So I'll go around one more time because it's been about a little over an hour, and we probably should wrap it up. But give everybody a last word or anything else that you want to share before we sign out. So I'll go to you first, Ian.
Well, Tom, first of all, I would say thanks to everybody in the community for being really supportive at this time. And I know it's been tough. And, I love coming to the cafe just to hang out and, play something different or play something new. So being able to kind of keep that connection, even though we're stuck in our house, is still a really good thing. It kind of helps kind of bridge that gap. And hopefully we kind of are able to get out soon. So stay safe, everybody.
Great. Yeah. How about you, Matt?
Final thoughts on this one is, the board game community is one of the best communities out there. If you go to a convention or somewhere like the Game Table Cafe, you'll find someone who's willing to sit down with you and play a game. Like someone willing to talk with you, teach you. You're never going to really be left ostracized. Just be willing to talk to someone. If you walk into any of these type of venues, ask to say, can you teach me this to me? Can you show it to me? And you'll find someone who's going to say yes. And that's one of the greatest things here that you can do. Just come in, once this is all through this. And even in the meantime, use the Discord channel, reach out on Facebook, do those things. And you're going to find people in this community who are willing to help you and play games and connect with you.
How about you, Amanda? You get the last word.
That's exciting. The one thing I would point out, I think I have a slightly different perspective because it does tend to be a male-dominated field that we're dealing with. So coming from the female perspective, kind of jumping on what Matt said, there are people always willing to teach you, to help you. Don't be afraid to ask questions and, find like-minded people. If you're in a game and you don't like how certain people are playing, don't be afraid to, step away and join another group. There's plenty of people out there. There's plenty of different play styles. And there's always someone to play with. So
from your perspective, has that changed over the last 10 years? Though?
It has. Yeah. It's gotten better. Definitely. And I also, if I may shamelessly plug, this is Nico. He's looking for a home. He's an adoptable cat through Furry Friends Network. And he would love to sit on anybody's lap for an entire board game if you'd be willing to adopt him.
I think you just sold Julia.
Just go to furryfriendsnetwork.org.
All right. Well, so we're gonna do this again next Friday. We're gonna have different people. So, but it's been a real pleasure to spend the last 3 hours with you guys. Even though the video wasn't that long, but I really appreciate your patience. I appreciate just the pleasure that it's been to talk to you. And with that, we'll say good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night,
Good
everyone.
night.